Welcome, I'm Paul, this is Dave. Today I have 14 Glitch in the Matrix and paranormal stories for you. I think my favorite one today involves the wind. Let's get to it. Case file number 3260, written by OK Mistake 2486. The Wrong Adeline James. So, last semester, I used to talk with a girl that was always sitting next to me. She was very sweet. And then there was a strike for 2 weeks. The exam was after these 2 weeks, and she was not there. Let's say her name was Adeline James. It'll be easier to explain it all. So Adeline used to always be next to me. After the exam, I emailed her. We can see the names and email of everyone in the classes that we have, for your information. So I asked her how it went for her, thinking that maybe she didn't sit next to me that day. I always sit in the back of the class, by the way, so I can see everything. So she responded that it went well, but said that she didn't remember me. I told her that I'm the girl that she always sits next to, in the back. She said that she always sits in the front, and after research I found that the girl I emailed, Adeline James, was not the girl sitting next to me. There were 2 girls with that name? But when I went back and looked at the student list, there was only one girl named Adeline James, and that Adeline James wasn't the Adeline I talked to all semester? I looked around campus the whole time and I never saw her face again. I think different universes can overlap, at least in our perception of it. We can interact even with objects and people from those different universes. Well, nearby universes, I would say. They're all running concurrently, so there's no time anomaly. It's just a fact of interacting with people that may not be in your originating universe, which is very interesting. I wonder how often we normally, casually walk by people or even talk with people who don't really exist to us. Case file number 3261, written by Jen Prime. Nowhere until somewhere. My wedding ring was originally my late mom's. It used to fit perfectly, but I've lost some weight, so it is admittedly a bit big, especially in colder months. Since it was my mom's and it fit her finger perfectly, I haven't gotten it resized for silly sentimental reasons. I have a corkscrew type ring sizey thing on it currently in an effort to delay the inevitable trip to the jewelry store. Even a touch big, it has never slipped off or been lost until yesterday. I was at work and ran to the bathroom, which is in the basement of the historic building I work in. It's a narrow, hall-shaped room. There are 2 sinks and a trash can right at the entrance and 4 stalls with only maybe 4 feet of clearance in front of each stall. As I was drying my hands before exiting, I noticed my ring was not on my finger. I checked the stall I was just in, the last stall at the end of the room. It wasn't there. My pants don't have pockets, thanks to the women's clothing industry, so I can't check those. I assume that it must be in my office. Maybe I took it off to put lotion on, and it just slipped my mind or something. I raced up the stairs and started searching around my workspace. It wasn't there. A coworker came in and saw me frantically searching and offered to help. We went to the basement bathroom together. She searched the stalls, all 4 of them. I dug through the trash can, shaking out all the paper towels. The ring simply wasn't there. We went back to my office and searched more. Still not there. My coworker stayed in my office, and I headed back downstairs to the bathroom to search again. I retraced my steps exactly, searching the floor and stairs as I walked. No ring. Panic is setting in. I'm in the bathroom alone. I searched each stall, starting with the stall I was in, moving towards the entrance. I was literally on all 4s in this public bathroom, so I could see across the entire floor, and there's nothing at all. Defeated, I decided to go back upstairs. As I get to the bathroom door, I hear something small, several steps behind me, hit the ground. I turn around, and at least 10 feet in front of me, right in front of the second stall, in the middle of the floor, is my ring. Stunned, I picked it up and headed upstairs. My coworker and I start trying to dissect what happened, and we've got nothing. My ring was just nowhere, until it was somewhere. These DOP glitches never get old for me, especially when they return in such a spectacular fashion. where the person has scanned the area where it reappears eventually a number of times, and even with help, other witnesses, there's simply no way it wasn't there before. You were on your hands and knees crawling around the bathroom stall, all of them, and yeah, it just bounces back. And I think the sound effect of hearing it drop when it reappeared is the most critical point. It's not that it was just there and you somehow missed it. Like, I guess that's conceivably possible, but no. It was like it was suspended and not there, and it appeared in the air, not directly on the ground, and then it made the noise when it fell. These items are out of sync with reality. They're phased out, and then they are restored eventually. It's really the simulation correcting its errors. Most of the time. Maybe spirits are involved sometimes. Case file number 3262, written by Max O'Brien 20. Cold Proof. It all revolves around a carton of milk. I rarely use milk. No tea or coffee, just protein shakes and the occasional bowl of cereal. Last night, I had a bowl of cereal and noticed we only had one carton of milk left in the fridge and was only about a third full. I wondered when my mom was going to buy some more and if I should go out tomorrow and buy some. Fast forward to the day after, today, around 5 p.m., I chose to have another bowl of cereal. I notice no one has got new milk and it's the same carton of milk from yesterday, this time even less full. I feel the weight of it. I look for more milk in the fridge and there is none. I take special note of this in my head because my mom and her boyfriend drink so much tea and coffee they would be very annoyed if I used the last of it. The cereal took priority anyway, so I used a little bit and left a tiny bit left in there, maybe enough for one drink. Skip forward 2 hours. My mom and her boyfriend have been taking a nap this whole time and haven't been awake long. I go back in the fridge whilst my mom is in the kitchen and notice 2 full cartons of milk, one opened, one not. I say, "Oh, you went shopping, huh? When did you do that?" "This morning," she said. She says they have been here since the morning, and I explained to her how that's impossible because of all the above, my whole moral dilemma around using the last of the milk. She swears by it. She's not lying, and there's no reasonable time where she could have snuck out to buy it as they were asleep. There is no reason that makes sense. I have no carbon monoxide poisoning, well, I don't show any other signs, and I know what I saw, felt, and thought about. I am well informed on string theory, shifting, a lot of things spiritual. Nothing fits. Case file number 3263, written by Frankie Rue, 929. A Thanksgiving Surprise. This is somewhat creepy, but mostly inexplicable. Right after I got in my car, I got into a little accident with my friend when I went over a median while trying to do a U-turn. I may have been extremely high, but I digress. Along with scratching the crap out of the side of my car, I lost a hubcap and my dad would pay for the scratches, but not the hubcap. So for a while I only had 3, which was fine by me. Fast forward to going home for Thanksgiving. A family friend goes outside for a smoke, comes back in and says, "Hey, got your hubcap back. When did you do that?" I didn't. I go outside and sure enough, there is a 4th hubcap. It is different from the other hubcaps and really dirty, but it even has a Toyota symbol on it. I ask everyone there for dinner who did it. Everyone is as baffled as I am. I immediately contacted all of my friends. Nothing. I go on Facebook asking if anyone has kindly given me a present without telling me. Nothing. 6 months later and I still have nothing. So some random person decided for Thanksgiving to get me the 4th hubcap I had dreamed of? We call him Hobo Santa Claus. This was the weirdest yet wonderful present I've ever received. Well, I mean, winter is coming, so I guess this is a fitting story for it. An early Hobo Santa Claus making his appearance. Case file number 3264, written by KK Keboke. The window she pointed to. I was living alone in this big 4-bedroom house. It was $400 a month. Old, crappy, huge. I lived in 1 of 2 rooms on the very top floor. It was a room at the back of the house. The room across the hall at the front of the house was being used as storage for someone who I imagine had lived there before me. I could have thrown this crap out, but fuck you, I'm lazy, and that is a lot of work to free up a room I wasn't going to use anyway. One day, I get home, and there is a middle-aged woman standing in the street, fucking staring up at the window of that top front unoccupied room. I kinda stare at her, staring at the window. I ask her, "Excuse me, ma'am, is everything okay?" She is silent for a moment and kinda snaps out of it and turns towards me and says, "My son's up there." I look up there and there ain't no one in that window. I'm thinking, maybe I left the door unlocked and he got in there? But then I realize that still makes no sense. "Ma'am, your son is in my house?" "Yes, he's in the window right there," she says, pointing at my fucking unoccupied room's window. "Ma'am, I don't see anyone." She starts crying and pacing. I say I'll go check it out. Checking it out was fucking scary. I mean, ghost boys all up in my house and whatnot. But I man up and grab a broomstick for self-defense against ghost kids. I check the room, no one was there. I look out the window down at the lady and she is still fucking staring up at me. Fucking creepy. So I figure maybe the ghost kid changed locales, and I'm checking each room, sounding less and less tough each room, all, "Hey, hello, is someone's son in here?" But ain't no ghost babies up in my crib, so I walk downstairs to inform the lady. She ain't there. I'm not easily rattled. I don't believe in ghosts and spirits and whatnot, and I accept that the lady was either crazy or on drugs. But, come on. That crap was scary as crap. I love this story mostly for how you behaved, and your thought process is so funny and comical to me, and I think you should have some fun with this kind of stuff, with glitches and paranormal events. Most of the time they're not malicious, they're just weird. And you just gotta go, yeah, I'm not gonna be beaten up by a ghost kid, I'm gonna get a broomstick and defend myself. Yeah, okay, I respect it. Case file number 3265, written by Ficarian. The Diagram of Us. A few hours ago, I was at Wegmans with my boyfriend. We had exactly 3 things to buy. We parked, walked in, and I let him lead the way through the aisle since everything we were getting was for him. I had my eyes glued to his back the entire time. One of the things we wanted was a 4-pack of his favorite hard cider, which is located in the far back corner of the store. As we approached the back part of the store, I saw my boyfriend turn around, smile at me, and then dip through a break in the aisles toward the small alcove where there was an open floor space with piles of stacked 12-packs of seasonal beers. As soon as I walked into that part, he was gone? Absolutely gone. I stopped in my tracks and called to him. I looked all around that alcove and behind the stacks of boxes thinking that he was messing with me, but he just wasn't fucking there. I was so confused. I walked out towards the aisle and I ran into him. He immediately turned around to look behind him and then he asked me how I got there. According to him, and he's reading this as I'm typing it so that I'm getting the facts straight, I followed him right to the place where the coolers were. I was standing right next to him and he said he definitely turned around and saw that it was me. After he grabbed what he wanted, he said that we proceeded to go around the corner and then he bumped into me in front of him. I thought he was joking when he told me his version. Then I started to press him on it when we were in the car. At first we got into an argument, him swearing that he wasn't pranking me and me swearing up and down that no, I'm not crazy. He definitely smiled at me and then ran into that alcove. He swears on his life that I was right there when he pulled out the thing from the cooler that he wanted. And I swear in my life that I saw him smile at me and duck into the alcove, which is where I definitely went. I was not next to him by the coolers. We were both so freaked out by what happened that we got home, made a fucking diagram of the store so that someone can tell us that we're not both insane. We even drew red arrows to point out to each other what vectors we took to try and make sense of it. I don't know what the fuck happened and neither does he. Please talk some sense into both of us because each of our experiences was so fucking unreal and they don't match. Case file number 3966, written by Glass Animal, found on the Endcap. Last week, I was out shopping with my mom at Marshall's. There were some things I wanted to look at on an Endcap, but there was a lady looking at it, so I patiently waited for her to walk away. I picked up several journals, planners, and notepads. One at a time, looked them over, and sat them back down. This was probably less than a minute. I went to reach for another and noticed the phone sitting on top of a planner, one I had just looked at. My mom was the only person nearby, so I was like, "Hey, is this your phone?" But she was walking away and didn't hear me. So I picked it up, thinking it was hers, but immediately knew it wasn't. Silver reflective case on an iPhone, not hers. I just stood there, like how the fuck did this get right on top of what I just looked at? I started looking the shelf over, thinking maybe I had sat an identical item down in a different spot and the phone was already there, but it was the only one like it. I debated on just leaving it there, but instead I found the lady who had been looking at that stuff before me, asked if it was hers. She said no. So I took it to the registers and told them I found it, and the lady checking out claimed it. There's no way she was right next to me and sat it down without me noticing and made it to the checkout so quickly. The whole thing felt really weird. I have no idea how that phone came to exist on top of something I had just picked up and put down, but it did. Case file number 3267, written by Visiting Statue, The Craft Above Westfield. In 2017, I was walking towards Westfield with my brother for dinner in the evening. As we were walking, I just suddenly felt that something was off, and I felt it instinctively. I remember as we were walking that the streetlights were not casting a shadow, as if it was sunset, and it was like I knew they should be, but they weren't. About 5 or so minutes later, my brother and I saw in our peripheral vision a massive craft just suddenly appear out of the sky, about 200 to 300 meters directly in front of us. I remember I could vaguely make out seeing a long, elongated craft that was just surrounded and covered in bright light. It only lasted about 3 to 5 seconds, but when it suddenly appeared, it flew upwards quite fast, and as it was flying higher in the sky, it began to turn and fly onto its side. It reached a point in the sky where it began to fly back down where it came from. As it flew back down, it rotated onto its side again and just completely faded out in the sky and vanished, almost like it just came into this dimension and left. I think that feeling I felt when something was off and began to notice the streetlights not casting a shadow was preparing me to see this UFO. If my brother and I had left home even 20 seconds later, or 20 seconds earlier, we would not have seen this craft. The fact it just so happened to appear straight in front of us, and not behind or on the sides where we wouldn't have seen it, really makes me believe whatever this feeling of something is off and feeling that the world is frozen is a message or sign from the simulation or them. So let's just assume that in the UFO stories we have, most of the time, it really is just aliens. They're unidentified flying objects, so they could just be the military testing different designs. The most curious part about all of them as an ensemble is that there's so many different designs reported. There's a triangle crafts, there's different lights in the sky that kind of form a triangle, often a circular shape. This time just a large craft that's very bright, illuminated. There's so many different designs, and it just makes me think that, okay, if these are aliens, well, yeah, there's probably not just one species here. There's probably competing species here, maybe even some trying to shield us, protect us. Maybe there are some nefarious aliens that are more of the mindset of it's better and safer to destroy any alien life out there. It's actually a Fermi paradox, solution, or even just a calculus you could run, where because you have to deal with light lag, the fact that there's information lag, if you accelerate an object fast enough, you can actually attack a planet before they even realize they're under attack. And that kind of tilts a game theory into the favor of just attacking anyone you know is out there. And that's the safest approach because you can't wait to retaliate. These weapons could destroy an entire planet effectively, and again, before you even know that it's launched. So if you have to deal with potential aliens, some may be very aggressive, just as a rationale for their own protection. Because they don't know who we are, and would we attack them if we could? Maybe. I mean, I hope not, but, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's the whole idea of, what happens when a less advanced race meets another more advanced race? Well, usually it doesn't end well for the less advanced race. It's just the nature of reality, at least on this planet. Maybe it's not the same out in the universe. I hope not. But yeah, it's a tangent just to go that I think there probably are different species here, and some are benevolent and trying to shield us, and that's probably why we're still around. Case file number 3268, written by Animera Film, A Glitch in the Wind. One day, I left the house and sat down on the porch. Around my home there are many different trees, from the smallest to the largest. All trees are also different, both small and large. I sat on the porch and noticed that the world seemed to have frozen. Not a single leaf was moving, although they always swayed even in the windless weather. And here it was as if the world had frozen, and the air seemed somehow different, as if thicker than usual. Then I looked up above the trees. Clouds were floating low above the ground, small, somewhat sparse, but moving quite quickly. Therefore, there was wind, at least up there. But then why weren't the trees moving as usual? There was a gentle breeze. Why were all the leaves frozen like in a picture? I looked further up, and large clouds were floating above the small low clouds. Therefore, there was definitely wind. But the leaves aren't moving. Absolutely all the leaves are frozen. I went home, turned my back to the trees, and a thought came to my mind. Damn, some kind of matrix simulation. But what if I now imagined that the leaves to my right were moving? I turned my head, looked at the place I thought about, and there, a few leaves moved and froze again. I turned my head back to the door and quickly turned back. I look at the trees. The leaves are not moving. I went home. An hour later, I went outside again, and wow, all the leaves are moving as usual now. The trees are moving a little too, but the clouds are floating much slower than the first time. By the way, here's another thing. There's a highway near my house. I can always hear the noise of cars, but that time, at first it was silence, then a noise like just a couple of cars passing, then silence again. And one more thing. You can always hear birds chirping, but at that moment there wasn't a single chirp, and it was 8 a.m. I mean, if you think about it, all of physics, any interaction in the world, is a product of a simulation calculation. Now, there's probably a lot of parallel processing going on, things that are happening simultaneously in ways we can't even code for, or couldn't even imagine how to, but that doesn't mean there's no errors, even if the simulation is being run on computers of designs we can't even fathom. There could still be errors, and I think this is one of those. DOP is the most common one, but sometimes you get events like this where the world seems to freeze, and I think it's a defense mechanism where there's a local bubble around which they form an area to repair so it doesn't spread and affect it. It's almost like a virus. You have to contain it and then correct the code lest it infect the rest of the simulation. It's almost like Agent Smith in the Matrix. You gotta contain it if you don't contain it, it's just gonna spread. Case file number 3269, written by Not Today, Bitch. 3 Dreams, 1 Fire. There's an ongoing joke in our family that my grandmother is a witch. Not the wart on the nose, flying on broomstick kind, but just a magical person. There are 8 grandkids in the family, and 3 girls, including myself. Me and the other girls' cousins would laugh and joke around about our grandmother, like she was casting spells on the family members and her house was a haunted house. Anyway, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a dream where I was sitting in my bedroom on the 2nd floor of our house, looking out the window, and I saw in the moonlight a woman walking through the yard. Dreaming, I went out and followed the woman, where I realized it was my grandmother. She met up with 2 other women in the woods and danced naked around a fire until they looked over to where I was hiding and invited me to join them. I woke up and I knew I just had to tell my other cousins. I met up with them the next day and told them about the dream, watching as their faces turned white. It turned out we all had the exact same dream on the exact same night. We agreed to never talk about it again, and whenever someone brings up our grandmother being a witch, we just change the subject. Case file number 3270, written by 3Chris333. Dented in every dimension. I ride a motorcycle to work, and at 41 years old, I am hyper-vigilant and pay close attention to other road users as I want to make it to 42. The worse the driver, the more attention I give them. About a month ago, I pulled up behind a silver Honda Jazz. I instantly noticed it had dents in every panel, one taillight out, and unusually for the UK, a square rear number plate. In other words, really distinctive. As we approached through the town, the driver also proved to be erratic, so I was super relieved when we got into a roundabout. They went and left and I went straight on. I even said to myself, "Thank goodness that car's gone." I accelerated off down the road, only to my absolute amazement, to pull up behind the exact same car at the next junction, about a mile down the road. For context, it's important to state that the two roads go off in separate directions, with no links at all. Also, being on a bike, I went quicker than the car could possibly have made it, even if there was a link. It was 100% the same car. I have absolutely no explanation. It genuinely made me feel odd inside, as I can't explain it. Even after the time has passed, I still feel baffled by it. Case file number 3271, written by Sad Sin City. The Painted Evidence. One of my fake nails was in my boyfriend's bed, except it was from a set I had months before we were even dating. At first I thought he was cheating. He texted me in the morning after I'd come over, asking if he should save my nail so I could re-glue it back on because he found it in his bed. I was very confused because I hadn't worn fake nails in months, before we even started seeing each other. So yes, admittedly, started questioning, and he sent me a picture of the nail, and it was without a doubt mine. I know it was because it was a very specific set, and there was dried up paint on the nail from when I was working on some art projects a few months back. The thing is, I have absolutely no idea how it even got there. I've gotten a new purse, so it couldn't have been floating around at the bottom for the past few months. I wasn't wearing anything with pockets when I went over to his house, so it couldn't have somehow gone undetected in my pockets. Just no idea how it even happened. Now, it's just a joke between us that he's also dating my doppelganger, and who knows if it's me or the other me when I come over. Case file number 3772, written by Hammered, Face to Face in the Dark. In the morning, my girlfriend, at the time, and I were sleeping in our bed. It was about 7 a.m. when my girlfriend woke me up and said someone was in the room staring at us in bed. And he just left right before she woke me up. I jumped up, ran outside, and after some frantic checking around, didn't see anyone. I yelled at the top of my lungs, "I'll kill your motherfucking butt!" Then went inside. My father was just coming out of the shower room, and he asked me what I was doing, and I told him what my girlfriend had told me. He got pale in the face and said, "I saw him staring at me from your door, but I thought it was you. I was even talking to him thinking it was you." It sent a chill down my spine. We didn't sleep soundly for a week. My girlfriend elaborated on what she saw happen. That the guy came in, walked over to our bed, then bent down and got right in her face just staring at her for a while, then looked over at me. He walked around the bed to me and did the same. She said she thought he was going to kill me and take her. He heard a noise from the living room and went to the door. I guess that's when my father saw him and started talking to him thinking it was me. It must have spooked him and he left. I probably owe my life to my father now that I think about it. I'm not sure how he got in or who he was. Case file number 3273, written by Bo Besh. When the Landline Died. When I was 15, a family friend asked me to babysit their 4-year-old daughter overnight and allowed me to bring a friend. The house had a basement, ground and upper level, and was basically enormous. During the hours of the early evening, a small pickup would pull into the front of the house and idle rather loudly. After noticing this a few times, I began to feel anxious. My friend kept assuring me that we were in a nice neighborhood and that it was probably nothing. Once it was dark, the truck appeared again, a little farther down the street, and turned the headlights off. I told my friend to get my dad on the phone and ask him to come by. We lived about 20 minutes away, and I didn't want to just call the police in case it was nothing. I scooped up the 4-year-old, checked all the doors, and told her to follow me to one of the bedrooms on the ground floor. My friend, not being nearly as worried as me, asked that he come over because I was panicking. After she handed me the phone, and hearing the fear in my voice, my dad agreed to come check it out. For 20 minutes, I read the child her favorite bedtime stories until she was comfortably asleep, while my friend was on the phone with her boyfriend in the other room. My dad comes by, sees the truck, walks around the house, checks the doors, and makes a dig at me for being anxious. He leaves. About 30 minutes later, the truck appears idling in front of the house again, then drives away. Now my friend is starting to get wary, so I call my dad, who tells me I'm being ridiculous and says not to call him again. About an hour later, there is no sign of the truck. My friend and I are sitting in the living room trying to relax, but I'm still feeling on edge. Around midnight, we hear this faint, whirring sound, what sounds like a power tool, below us in the basement. We look at each other in absolute horror and run to the top of the basement stairs where, sure enough, there is a drilling sound emanating. My friend starts crying, loud sobs. I tell her to follow me and get my dad on the phone while I call the police. I start to dial out on the home line, then I realize the landlines are dead. I grab my phone from her and dial the police. She uses her phone to call my dad, who doesn't answer. I head to the bedroom with the sleeping little girl, pick her up, and we move to the upper floor. On the phone with the dispatcher, I'm trying to calmly explain what is going on, what we are doing, and where we are in the house. My friend is on the phone crying to her boyfriend. I tell her to be quiet so she, 1, doesn't wake the sleeping toddler, and 2, doesn't attract whoever the fluck is in the house. My friend stays on the phone, but talks in a whisper, while I stay on the phone with the dispatcher, who is assuring me the police are on the way and will be here in 20 minutes. This is a long wait. What seems like several minutes later, we hear footsteps on the stairs coming up. My friend is gasping for air and sobbing, while I tell the dispatcher they are on our floor. She asks me to listen carefully to them, and asks me how many there are. 1. She asks how far away he is. He's at the top of the stairs, 2 rooms over. She asks if he's armed. I don't know. I heard a power drill before. She says there is a cop in the area and will be here in a few minutes. The guy is checking the other rooms for us, talking to himself. I'm barely breathing, and my friend is in the closet with the sleeping girl. The footsteps get closer, and I see feet underneath the door, and he jiggles the handle. I hear my friend let out a loud sob in the closet, and I move away from the door, not sure what to do. The dispatcher is asking me what's going on, and I open my mouth but can't speak. Then the guy walks back down the hall to the stairs and walks downstairs. We stay in the room waiting for what feels like an eternity, but nothing happens. I found my voice and was able to tell the now screaming dispatcher what had just happened. She says the police are in the neighborhood and tells me to move towards the bedroom window and put my hand on it. She explains that the police are going to walk around the outside of the house with a flashlight and point at all the windows so they know what room we are in and see if anyone else is inside. I press my hand on the window and I can see about 4 police with flashlights walking around the house. The dispatcher is radioing with them and says that no one appears to be in the house, to come down the stairs and out the front door. I picked up the little girl, still sleeping, and put my other arm under my friend to help her, and we make our way outside. I call my dad while the cops go inside. They come out 20 minutes later empty-handed. When my dad gets there, the cops say there were signs of forced entry in the basement, and some dirt and scuff marks on the wood floors, but nothing else seemed out of the place. Such an intense experience to have, and in a story written so intensely too. I tried to convey that it was so stressful. I've never had to deal with something like this where there's a home invader or even a potential home invader. I've had people pull into the driveway, because they're probably lost or just took a wrong turn, but no one pull in multiple times and then try to break in. I can't imagine the fear. Like, even if you're an adult and you're armed, you don't want to have to defend yourself. You don't want to have to shoot someone, or you don't want to have to flee your own home and call the police for help and all that. It's far worse than any spirit, I would say. Now time for the jokes of the day. 3 moles were walking down a small tunnel. The first said, "I smell sugar." The second said, "I smell honey." The third said, "I smell molasses." My wife just gave birth to twins. I've named them Kate and Duplicate. A man and his son were driving past the graveyard, and the boy asked his father, "Do they ever bury two people in the same grave?" "Not that I know of," answered his father. "What made you ask that?" His son replied, "Well, I saw a gravestone that read, 'Here lies a lawyer and an honest man.'" Hard to mix those two. Sorry to all the lawyers watching. When I lost a dictionary, my wife asked if I looked upstairs. I was like, I can't look up anything. Don't you understand? A woman was having a problem with her bedroom closet door. It would fall off the hinges whenever the bus went by. She tried several times to fix it herself, but the door would still fall off when the bus went by. She finally called a repairman. He showed up, looked over the door, and found no problem. Then the bus came, and sure enough, the door fell off. He said that he was going to step inside and for her to close the door behind him. As soon as the door was closed, her husband came home and heard her talking to someone in the bedroom. He burst in, demanding to know who was in there. Before she could answer, he looked in the closet and found the repairman and asked, "What's he doing in there?" The repairman said, "You're not going to believe this, but I'm waiting for the bus." A tall tale. Alright, video up here. YouTube thinks you'll like it. Check it out. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you next time.